So here we are with Allan Snowden from Betta Inspect It, who's a well-recognised and respected local building inspector. So welcome, Allan.
Yeah, g'day, Glenn.
Right, what we want to talk about today is just understanding, or for our people out there watching and listening, is what you do, during a building inspection for people that are looking to either pre-purchase inspection or during that conditional period when they've put an offer on a property, they get a building report. Obviously, we contact you to get that report done. Just give us an overview really quickly of what you focus in and what you do in a standardised building report.
Firstly, most of our clients come through via their own intentions.
Yes.
And once I've actually organised access to a site or to a property, I go on site, and first thing I sort of try to do is the sort of small stuff in the home. It's like, do the electrics work? Is the plumbing okay? Is the wiring okay? The circuit board.
Okay.
What else do I do?
So when you look at the plumbing and the wiring and all that, just as you go through and probably turn all the lights on, turn all the taps on, just check that everything's running okay.
Yes, yeah.
And lights are going.
Yeah, so everything needs to be functional, as obviously the purchaser's wanting to know whether the home they're going to buy is functional.
Yep.
So I'm just looking at those small items to start with and make sure they're okay. Obviously, I'm not an electrician or a plumber.
No.
But with my trade practice and my knowledge, I sort of generally know when something's not right.
Something's a bit awry.
And generally mention within the report that they need to seek further advice on any particular item that I might pick up.
And you would advise them to seek that advice from a registered plumber or an electrician?
Yeah, all our referrals would be to a registered or a qualified tradesperson.
Yeah.
Whether they do that, that's entirely
their choice, isn't it?
That's their choice, but that's our recommendations.
Yep,
yeah.
cool. So once you do the basics, so that's your like you said, the electrical stuff, the plumbing stuff, and have a look around the inside of the home. What next would you do? Would you jump up in the roof or?
No, so then I have obviously I've got a system that I try to stick to so that I don't forget anything.
Yep.
And I hope that the real estate agent's not in my ear as I'm going around.
We leave you in peace.
Yeah, right. Okay. So I'm looking for defects. I'm not really interested in the quality of things. Is it painted right or is it not painted right? Or a bit of surface damage.
Yeah.
I feel that my clients, they can find that sort of stuff, or they can see that when they do that. I'm more interested in the structural integrity and the soundness of everything that I'm looking at. So that'd be linings with wall cracks in it.
Okay. Yep.
Are they just movement cracks from poor installation, or is it movement cracks from seismic activity or the house has moved or sunk?
Yeah.
So
right.
I'm looking for that. Same on the ceilings, doing the same there.
Yeah.
Around windows, so windows, making sure that they open and shut.
Yeah.
And there's no water leaking.
Yes.
Condensation channels are all okay.
Open and good. Yeah.
From there, I generally sort of move towards moisture readings. So that comes up the moisture.
That's a big one, isn't it?
It is a big one.
That's
a whole topic on its own.
Isn't it?
So I'm looking for the weather tightness of the home. Is the home weather tight?
Yeah.
I will have on arrival on the site, I will have actually had a quick skint around the house to make sure that I know what sort of structure the home is. Mm-hmm. So when I'm on the inside, I know pretty much where I need to look.
Yeah. And that comes with experience, obviously.
It does. Yeah. Well, I'm assuming that it does.
Yes.
So then going through and making sure that all the other thing would be your plumbing fittings and whatnot. As I've gone through and done those, we check all the moistures around your showers and your bath and anywhere where there's could be potential water leaks under toilets.
I've always found it interesting on various reports, in relation to high moisture readings, to do with showers. Because that's always a bit of a sticking point, isn't it? It's one of those things where I've seen, not you, but I've seen other inspectors, do moisture readings on the inside wall of a shower, basically, I wouldn't say where the plumbing is, but just on the shower, even after it's just been used. And,
so the moisture...
I don't understand how it works, but you may be able to, tell us a bit more how that moisture reader actually works.
So I guess that's sort of what sets a good inspector out to one that's maybe not quite as knowledgeable.
Yes.
Is actually where you should and shouldn't test, and actually how you decipher the results that you get.
Yep.
In a shower, as you were explaining, so the residual moisture meter doesn't actually pick up residual moisture.
Okay.
So
it's only getting internal moisture.
Yeah. So if the surface is wet, it doesn't pick that up. It only picks up what's below the surface.
Okay.
But that depends on the moisture meter as well.
I was going to say the actual.
Yeah. So again, it's a knowledge thing. Yeah.
So where would you normally check, say, for in a shower? Because it's always the one that we see as agents come up in reports often. Would it be seams of showers? Would it be under where the what do you call it?
Under the...
What do you bloody call the thing?
Mixer,
that's it. The thing where you turn the sucker on.
That's it.
Yeah. Would it be under that because of plumbing? Or
no, because that tends to pick up the pipes underneath it.
Right. Yeah.
So
that makes sense. Yeah.
So if the pipes are leaking or the mixer's leaking, it'll be down lower. It'll be on the dwellings or on the bottom plate. So we're checking the bottom of the shower.
Yeah.
Not necessarily if it's a proprietary shower.
Yeah.
You're only checking the outside, because where they leak is they come around the bottom of the base of the shower and they leak to the outside of the screens. But then again, it's yes, you find a high moisture reading. It's about investigating that.
Yeah. So why? Exactly. Is it just a seam issue, or is it a greater issue?
So one of the key things that I really do is I make sure that if I do get a high reading, I like to find out why. Yeah, why? As best I can.
Well, your client wants to know, don't they? Because if you just give them a report saying there's a high moisture reading in the shower or there's a high moisture reading on that wall, they're going to ask you, what do you think? Why do you think?
Yeah.
So you might
it's also about backing up my findings.
Yeah.
It's easy to get a high reading with a moisture meter. Yeah. And it could be a number of things. So you have to find out. You've got to break down and find out as to what it is that's actually causing the reading.
Yeah.
And if you
interesting.
Yeah. So
that is interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So once you've done the moisture reading stuff, and I'm guessing here that you would probably do more intensive moisture reading on a home possibly built between 1990 and 2004 in that leaky home era. Would that be right? Would you do more like on walls and or more intensive or not?
So going from there, in the last 6 months, there's been quite a few cases of leaky homes go through the court.
Yeah.
And our company, being one of the only companies in New Zealand that carries weather tightness insurance.
Qualifications and insurance,
Yeah. They've now, as part of our inspections, we're actually doing it with 2 moisture meters, not just the one.
Oh wow!
To back up and make sure that what we're actually...
Is there 2 different meters, like 2 different brands?
They are 2 different. And they measure in 2 different ways.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so it's really a matter of just backing up what we're actually finding.
And is that only on that era of home, or is that on all homes?
We're doing it pretty much on all homes, unless it's a no risk home.
Yeah, like a brand new build sort of thing.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And your question with regards to where do I test? Yeah. So basically, you are looking at any area which is known to attract moisture or weather tightness issues, which is around your windows, your eaves, your gutters, anywhere where there's a possibility that what would you call it, a junction or a detail hasn't been done correctly.
Yeah, like a seam sort of thing, from a building aspect. Those houses that don't have eaves.
Yeah, no eaves.
No eave homes, they're probably at more risk, aren't they?
They are at more risk, yes.
Yeah. Doesn't necessarily mean they've got issues, they're just at a higher risk.
That's right, yeah.
Well, it's interesting to hear, because obviously you've done a lot of building reports for Team Delaney over the years.
Yes.
So it's it's really cool to understand the process. So once you've gone through the moisture reading stuff,
Yep.
what's the next step from there?
Okay, so pretty much I've done inside other than getting up into the roof space
Yep.
and having a look up there, making sure everything's okay.
Yep.
There's no leaks.
No evidence of anything. Yeah.
No, and there's insulation there. We don't, within our reports or within our building reports, we don't generally comment on healthy homes.
No.
My daughter, who works for me, does property compliance, so
Okay.
I tend to leave that sort of stuff to her.
Yep. Fair enough.
So once we've done there, generally the underfloor,
Right.
if there is an
If
underfloor,
it's like a
will
pile house,
hope that it's accessible exteriorly,
Yes.
from the exterior, but sometimes they're in a
cubby hole.
cupboard somewhere or somewhere awkward.
Yep.
And I pretty much from there I move outside.
Yeah, okay.
and I start my inspection on the outside.
And when you're doing the outside, you're looking, depending on the construction in the year, I guess, those early 60s, 70s homes, which are the solid stucco, if you want to call it that.
Yep.
I don't get the terminology right, so just
you're
please
good.
correct me if I'm not close.
No, you got it sorted.
Yeah, so that's that solid stucco, because there's different forms of exterior claddings and plasters, obviously. Would you say that those older homes, I wouldn't say less risk, but are more, I guess, more sturdy than the homes that were built with the thinner plaster in the 1990s to 2004, those leaky home ones? I've just, from personally, I'm not a builder, as you know.
Yeah.
From a visual, you see those earlier ones are a lot thicker plaster or stucco, and those 1990 ones were quite thin. Or is that different?
I'm guessing what you're trying to say is if a home that you see has actually got less than probably 25, 30 mils of plaster,
Yeah.
then maybe it wasn't installed by a good accredited
Yeah.
plastering company.
Right.
The earlier houses, like as you were mentioning, the solid stucco
Yeah.
era, had several different ways of putting like a backing on the back.
Yes.
Some of them actually had a fiberlight backing, which was asbestos based.
Yes.
And then they went to solid sarked.
Yep.
And then your diagonal sarking.
Yeah.
And then in the probably pre-90s, they started doing just on wire or
That's
Dan
right.
bean
Yeah.
or just straight on the studs.
On the studs, yeah, they just wrapped it up with wire and whacked the plaster on there. Yeah.
And they were the ones where you would end up with a lot more cracking.
Yes.
Obviously, because as it went past the stud, you'd have 20 mils, and then you'd have 40 mils in the middle, and so you just had varying
get that
depths.
movement, right, and the expansion, and and then
Yeah.
all right. So
Stucco or solid stucco is still to me is a good
it's a good form of cladding.
good form of cladding if it's been installed correctly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm taking from that is that all claddings are actually okay as long as, would you say, A, they were installed properly,
Yeah.
and B, they're maintained.
Maintenance is a big one.
Yeah.
So in my experience, since I've been doing this for 6.5 years now, maintenance or the lack of maintenance is one of the key issues with most homes on the exterior.
That's interesting, isn't it? When you think, someone's going to go sell their home, the advice would be probably from you as a building inspector to do all the maintenance that you may not have done.
Correct. Yeah.
Over the past number of years, get it done before you go on the market, because that's going to just have the house in a better presentation. And I guess what we're saying to people now, because the market's slowed down a bit, obviously, is that we recommend they get the actual vendor gets a building report done before they go to the market, especially on some of the higher risk homes. So then there's no surprises when they may get a contract that's acceptable, but it's conditional upon a satisfactory building report. Then it's not a satisfactory building report, but at least if they knew there were some issues before going to the market, they could rectify those issues.
There's sort of a few ways to look at it. I mean, you can the vendor can actually rectify all those issues.
Yes.
The inspection or the report can actually be altered, re-inspected,
Re-inspected,
and changed to suit. me being a building inspector for a pre-purchaser,
Yep.
I'm always very cautious or wary of a home that's just been freshly painted and freshly spruced up.
Yep.
So if another building inspector was to actually come in after I've done a
report,
a pre-sale
Yeah.
inspection, they may have the same
Yeah.
issue as me.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's actually quite good to provide just the same report,
Yep.
but add
Add the changes.
So that the purchaser who looks at the report can actually see, well, this is what it did look like,
Yeah.
and this is why they've done it, rather than
So
trying to hide the
you're
fact.
trying to hide issues that are out there. So
Yeah.
it's good to hear that you offer inspections to vendors, which a lot of people out there probably don't realise.
Yeah.
But also to those purchasers as well. Just give us an idea what an average cost to get a building inspection done through Betta Inspect It
Right.
is with
So
you.
yeah, so generally we sort of start just with a small little 3-beddy.
Yeah.
Basic home is $595 plus GST.
Yeah.
And then it sort of goes up in increments from there, depending on the size. The construction,
Yeah.
and also the weather tightness issue. So,
Yeah, right.
Being that there is a huge risk, and we carry huge insurance for weather tightness, there is an extra cost for a home that sort of sits in that
era.
leaky home era.
Yeah, right.
So
to me, that's bloody good value.
Yeah.
To give you both as a vendor before selling, but also as a purchaser during the
Yes.
selling process,
Yeah.
to give you peace of mind knowing that you're buying a sound property.
Yeah.
So when you move in, there's no surprises as such. So, hey, look, Allan, we thank you heaps for coming on board and doing something that I know you love doing, and that's getting
Thanks
in front.
very much.
Yeah, no worries at all. Getting in
yeah.
front. So anyone out there listening and watching, if you're thinking of selling or buying, please get in touch with Allan from Betta Inspect It, and he'll do you very much a thorough report for your purchase or sale. So thanks, Allan.
Yeah, thank you, Glenn, for letting me do this. That's all.